Money is corrupting science and research today. There are entities out there, large government entities, as well as corporations, that are trying to profit from the scientific effort. They are really there involved to make sure that we just make more profits for them. So sometimes I feel like this, and sometimes you might feel like this as well, where there is a large entity that's involved that is taking away from me personally, or maybe from the scientific effort and making sure that it's corrupted. I want you to take a step back. Whenever I start feeling desperate like that, A, it's usually I'm reading some sort of news article that's sensationalized in some sort of way, or B, I'm hungry, I need something to drink, I need to go for a walk. And what I typically do when I have those moments, and they happen a lot, trust me, I'm totally normal, just like you, I take a step back and I say, wait a minute, I need to go do something. So I'll go for a walk, I'll get something to eat, and I'll try to calm myself down. But I really want you, instead of thinking about how other people are taking away from you, I want you to get to a moment where you are, maybe you're in your 40s, I don't know, maybe you're 40 right now. And I want you to be just so financially well off that you just simply don't care about the rest of the world, and you could do the old FU money to everybody, right? So you know what FU money is. Basically, you have enough money that's there that if something is pissing you off, somebody is not making you feel good, that you could just walk away, right? So as a researcher myself, I strive for that, right? That I am in a position where I could just walk away. And the labor market, right, so the jobs that we actually have does not satisfy that condition. There's not enough jobs in the research world to satisfy that condition. So what do you actually do? Well, this is where you actually have to become financially free, I guess, from everybody, right? How do you actually get there? It seems like an impossible thing, right? So the impossible thing is probably going to take you about 20 years by the time that this actually works out. But it's actually pretty simple to do this recipe, right? It's a basic, simple recipe where you just save 10 to 20%. My family, we save probably, I think our effective savings rate is about 18% of everything that we ever make, that ever comes into our house. And we've done that for years at this moment. And that goes into investments. What are these investments? There's some really basic ones that I want you to consider and think about, right? Long-term mutual funds that have been around for forever, that have pretty good high growth rates, but those are a little slightly, some of them are pretty scammy in terms of what they're trying to get you to go into, whereas well researched. If you look at, ask anybody that's in finance, they're going to tell you this. That's studying it, right? So as a professor of finance, right? So I'm a professor in business, I'm in strategy, but I want you to think about finance at this moment and just get index funds. And what are index funds? You just buy into the economy. Every single top performing, every single company that's in the stock market, you just buy a percentage of them. And so that's all we do, right? The Vanguard Spider, I think, fund we have a bunch in that, but then we do a lot of mutual funds as well. And we sort of just spread things around. And we've been doing that for years. And so at this point in our life, because we've been doing this for years, and it doesn't take as long as you think it does, but it takes years. So there's a simple rule that if you think about this, and it's all because of compound interest. Compound interest is this thing where you have interest on interest. And there's a simple rule. If you use compound interest in the stock market, your money will double in 7 years. So if you want to become multimillionaires, this is the way that you simply do it. You don't do any of this sort of other kind of shady stuff, get into all these sort of side things and stuff. The reciprocity project that I'm building right now, that's not going to make me, that make me nothing. It really doesn't. So what I want you to do instead is get to the point where you have that relaxed feeling, where you come into the day and you don't think that anybody is stealing from you. Yes, there are moments where people do not great things in the scientific effort, but that's where you have to take a step back and say, I'm not going to be part of that. And how do you do that? I think the key thing is to have this financial responsibility, right? So have that big base. The other thing that I was thinking about is make sure that you do not view anything with such a desire that you are completely emotionally detached or attached to it, right? So your cell phone, who cares, right? Like if you see people that are good with money and they do things really well, they don't have that sort of passionate feeling about possessions. I know that's really hard to sort of think about, but they really don't. They're just like, whatever. I don't care if we need this. So you need basic things, right? Food, shelter, transportation, utilities, or water, right? Like this sort of basic things for life. And once you have that, everything else is like, who cares? And those levels, right? Like you could live really, really inexpensively. I would actually, I would love to live in the most inexpensive thing possible. But I realize that there's, life happens and that doesn't, some people might not be necessarily okay with that. With my wife, she might not be okay with that. So, I'm in a family. We have to come to agreement. So, we live somewhat meagerly, right? So none of our possessions mean that much to us that we actually care about. I don't care about it. Maybe my wife cares about it. I don't know. But, we have to come back to what is the things that's actually important to us. That's an important thing. And the last important thing is making sure that you have insurances in your life. So what is that? That's if something catastrophic happens, right? So there's a lot of catastrophic things that happen in our life. Having basic emergency fund of some sort. So we have a certain amount of money that's socked away that will allow us to survive for a couple of months, essentially, if something crazy was to happen. The reason is that the other insurances that we have in our life don't kick in until it's been a couple of months, right? So having just basic insurances of sorts, right? Like life insurance if you have dependencies, really basic life insurances if you have dependencies, right? Term life insurance for 20 years. If you have very simple things like, I don't know, we have money, we have a slush fund that's in our checking account. We have a certain amount of excess funds that are in our checking account for the day-to-day fluctuations that happen, right? Like all of these sort of simple things add up over the long run. And the reason what you're trying to do is protect that lump sum from ever touching it. And you're always reinvesting every single month or every single paycheck that you ever get to the point that it actually becomes money. So I know lots of you are graduate students. What do you actually do? Well, you're already making an investment in your life at this moment. That's a big, big thing. So what I would get you to do, because you're making that investment in your life, which has a higher rate of return over the course of your life than any single investment anyways, it really does. And the reason is that you can sort of control that. It produces money for you eventually. So I wouldn't do any investing during graduate school or your undergraduate program or whatever. I just wouldn't, because you're already making that investment as it is. So once you get out and you start making that money, that's when you start investing. And now if you did this right out of graduate school, so for us as a family, we paid off our debts right off the get-go. We have no debts. Our house is paid off, all of that kind of stuff, right? Like we make sure that we are living free from anybody, that we have FU money that we could just send to anybody. If somebody was to piss us off, right? Like my employer was to piss us off, my wife's employer was to piss us off, we just walk away. We don't need that anymore. And that's where I want you to sort of think about things. And it will take at least 10 years, but you get to the moment where that does happen and you can just walk away and this is your own life where you have that ability to do those things. Now, there is, there is a couple of good books. The Wealthy Barber, if you want to check that out, that's going to really help you out. I think he's Canadian. That's a really good one. So Dave Ramsey, I believe in everything that he sort of suggests if you want to check him out, but he tends to be very politically leaning in one way. And I don't necessarily abide. I don't think everybody, and it applies to everybody. Susie Orman, she uses a lot of debt in her sort of financial planning, and that makes me uncomfortable. But everything else, like there's some really good basic books that you could get. If you read a couple of good basic books, you'll get this sort of swing of things. So whenever you get into that moment where you feel that somebody else is controlling you, and yes, there is a money grubbing system that's involved in the scientific effort. I am absolutely aware of that. And I realize that some people do prosper from this money grubbing system. Take a step back and think about, okay, what can I do in this circumstance? How can I remove myself where I can do the old FU to anybody that I want? And man, do I ever do that a lot? Because, hey, I'm okay with that. I am at a point in my life where if I just don't want to deal with it, I don't deal with it, because I built up that financial base. And we can sustain this over the long term, right? So the Reciprocity Project, I could tell you on the YouTube channel, if you're watching this, make a couple $100 a month. Yes. I'm gonna be rich and loaded as a YouTuber. That's not how you make money in the long run. What you do is you do this long-term investing over and over and over again, and you take large sums of money that you have, 10 to 20%. My family does about 18. Do that of everything that you ever make and invest it in the economy, index funds, mutual funds, for a long time. And it turns out to something that's absolutely miraculous because of compound interest, because money doubles. Yes, it goes up and down, right? Like things go up and down, but if you look at the long run trends, I don't want you to look at anything less than a 30 or a 50-year long run trend. You'll see that, man, it just keeps going up. Because the world grows, there's still lots of potential. There's lots of people that are not doing well today all across the world. That gives me the belief that we have tons of improvement to go to, and we can change the world. And how do we do that? Through this sort of long-term investing that we do. And that's how actually long-term progress actually makes in the economy. That's how you break free, and you don't have to worry about the money grubbing system that's in the scientific effort. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.